What it do? This your boy the Media Shadow. New asinine gun control legislation is being proposed in Oregon. How crazy are these new proposed restrictions? Well, they'd make Oregon the most restrictive state in the union as it pertains to firearms. January 11, 2019, Senate Bill 501 is scheduled to be introduced on Monday, January 14th, which is when Governor Kate Brown returns to Salem to be sworn in for her new term. The legislative session begins January 22nd. What does this bill entail? It's a doozy. Magazines can only hold up to 5 rounds of ammunition. All non-compliant magazines will need to be sold, destroyed, or turned into the police. Failure to do so is punishable by up to 364 days imprisonment, a fine of $6,250, or both. Purchases of ammunition will be limited to 20 rounds per individual within a 30-day period. A criminal background check is required before transfer of ammunition can occur. It also criminalizes not securely storing firearms with a trigger or cable lock or in a locked container with 30 days imprisonment or a fine of $1,250 or both. Only people 21 and older will be able to purchase firearms. This legislation prohibits the transfer of a firearm by gun dealer or private party until at least 14 days or the state police determine the recipient is qualified. And it requires everyone to secure a permit before purchasing or otherwise receiving a firearm, which can be declined if a sheriff has reasonable grounds to believe that the applicant has been or is reasonably likely to be a danger to himself or others. Oh, and the sheriff can charge a reasonable fee for processing applications for these permits, and if your permit is declined, that money doesn't need to be returned to you. Even if your application for the permit is granted, the sheriff is only required to issue a permit within 30 days of receipt of the application. Holy fucking shitballs, Oregon. I mean, it takes balls to be this moronic. I understand this nonsense came out of the Students for Change, that activist group of David Hogg and Emma Gonzalez, but Jesus Christ, Senator Rob Wagner and Representative Andrea Salinas, you're adults. You've lived long enough to know that this isn't going to pass. Even Governor Kate, no you can't see my state standardized test scores before the midterm election Brown, isn't crazy enough to pass this. And I'll repeat myself because it's just that shocking. If this passes, this would be the most restrictive gun legislation of any state in the Union. This would be light years stricter than Illinois, Michigan, or New York. You know, places with actual gun problems. This would put California to shame. But let's say it did pass because Kate Brown was loopy from stepping on a used syringe in a Portland public park that day. 1 in 16 adults in Oregon already has a concealed carry license. That's about 250,000 people. How the hell are you going to have sheriff's departments keep up with the influx of all the new gun purchase permits and turn them around within 30 days? How expensive are these application fees going to be made so that sheriff departments can handle this influx of new paperwork? The applications might cost more than the guns themselves. And how do you expect people to actually get proficient at shooting guns if the only place they're able to buy more than 20 projectiles a month is at a range? Newsflash! People go to makeshift ranges in the woods that don't have ammo retailers all the time. Typically, I prefer to head up to Mount Hood and save money by not buying crazy marked up ammo at ranges. Plus, I can lay down and practice sniping, zero my scopes, run and shoot, basically all the most fun parts about shooting that they can't let you do at a range for liability reasons. I was being a little flippant before when I asked how they expect people to get proficient because we all know that's not why liberals are going to be pushing this malarkey. This isn't about common sense gun control measures they actually think they can achieve. This is about inconveniencing legal gun owners to the point where they give up their hobby altogether. Or really, since this is unlikely in the extreme that it'll ever pass, it's about throwing a bone to the segment of their base that knows absolutely nothing about guns or gun culture. Now, having said all that, I'm going to be watching this bill like a hawk, and if I hear anything more on it, I'm going to organize an open carry protest in Portland, Oregon. It's perfectly legal so long as the guns aren't loaded, and they can be loaded and concealed so long as you have a concealed carry permit. The argument against an open carry protest in Portland is that the police would be inundated for a few hours with hundreds of 911 calls, that there's crazy people with guns on the loose looking scary. The counter to this argument, of course, is that forcing sheriff's offices to process tens, if not hundreds of thousands of permits over the next year would be far more distracting from productive police work. Let's show this shithole city that Oregon still has some red-blooded Americans left in her. Let's scare the pants off of Ted Wheeler, who last year tried to empower himself with veto rights for when and where you can legally protest. These leftist pansies can take my guns when they pry them from my cold, dead-ass hands. Who's with me?
Who knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men? The shadow knows.